Bard is literally the worst fucking class I've ever seen in my entire life.
People
literally only played it for like 2 days when it first came out.
I love the class. It's very cool.
You could just be better off. Just play fucking wizard. Like, why would you ever even play it? It's literally the worst rogue class. Bow classes aren't good anymore. There's no good bows. There's no good anything. The class is just it's not fun, and no one plays it now.
No, it was me the whole time. April Fools, everyone. Oh dear. You actually thought I was gonna exalt Mystic. Why the fuck would I do that? What do I look like to you? So yeah, it was me all along. And boy, do I have a lot to say about this class. Oh my god, where the hell do I begin? I feel like there should be some sort of disclaimer when you select the Bard saying that you're most likely going to get abused by warriors using Colo Sword, because seriously, I'm certain that almost 50% of the voids I did, I was told to go mundane. Like, I've never needed therapy more than after doing 600 Exaltation dungeons on a Bard. Yeah, it's not pretty. As you'd most likely expect, I did get messaged some quite interesting things when I was exalting the class, I must say. This one reads, Bard buff is not your enemy. Bard who does not permabuff is your enemy. That was good. Alright, so let's get into it. If you've watched my current state of tiered bows in Naruto TMG video, you'll probably come to realize that I fully just brushed over Bard and didn't say anything on the class. Why, you may ask? Because I believe Bard in terms of usability beats Archer and Huntress by a landslide. First, I'm going to talk about the overall stats of the class. Just a bit of a side note before we begin the video, the So You're Looking to Exalt series is able to be enjoyed by players of all skill levels, however the main content of this series and recommendations are more aimed towards the higher end of players, so my item recommendations may be tough for the average player to get hold of. Alright, onto the stats. With the right equipment, the Bard is able to have these kind of stats. I've already gone on my rant about how defense is a stat that more people should care about for the overall longevity of their characters, and this is where the Bard shines. What if I was to tell you that this 60 defense build is actually using a Vesture of Duality? This is the build I would go for when exalting Bard. A Leaf Bow / Void Bow because they both deal absurd amounts of DPS in terms of bows. For my loot, I would go Wavecrest Concertina, Tier 7 loot and Snake Charmer, and for my robe, I'd go the Vesture of Duality, and for my accessory, Exalted God's Horn. And if you're in the higher end of players, you'll know already how juicy the Vesture Horn proc is. That's an extra plus 25 DPS stats upon using your ability while shooting. Here's a little bit of extra justification for the equipment. The bows are a given. There's no excuse not to use these bows, as well as tier 14 for large scale wave clear and pre-celestial 03. I actually have a lot to say about loots. Wavecrest Concertina, I would definitely say, isn't underrated, but no one actually acknowledges how strong the ability actually is. Upon equip, this item grants a whopping 8 DPS stats, being 4 attack and 4 dexterity. That in itself being complete insanity. On top of that, it also gives you the power to spawn birds, which deal a total of 1,800 armor piercing damage each. It also has a passive which rewards the player for fighting in close range for situations such as using a tiered bow. Honestly, it's such a phenomenal ability. Alright, and on to the Nebula loot. This ability genuinely does not get the credit it's deserved. Upon equip, the user is granted 40/40 life mana as well as an extra 5 defense, which is already promising. On top of this, it increases your allies' defense by 8 as well as yours. In total, that's a whole 13 defense for yourself from just one ability use. And on top of this, just like the Wavecrest Concertina, it increases your range by 25%. And then there's the Snake Charmer. Everybody knows what this loot does, and I don't really need to explain it. 7 speed upon equip, and a speedy buff upon ability use. Really, really good for rushing. Vesture of Duality. You know this item, you love the item, and it is quite the spectacle to behold really. Upon equip, it grants 12 defense, 5 attack, 10 speed, and 40 MP. However, upon ability use, it sacrifices some of that defense to give you a mighty attack steroid. Like previously stated, with an endgame build, Bard is both the master of defense, offense, and range. Though its consistent DPS will never match up to classes such as Wizard and Sorcerer, it still has a really high damage output. You just need to break down the class really. Like, the capability to hit incredibly high DPS numbers with the use of the Wavecrest Concertina, high defense numbers with the use of the Nebula loot, and the speed to make the Bard a viable rushing class. Moving on to my experience with exalting Bard, to be honest, like previously stated, I think the worst thing about exalting Bard is people within the community catching on that you're exalting Bard. So I don't really plan on talking about raiding discords too much in this video because it's basically just beating a dead horse at this point.
Oh my gosh, it's Megan Thee Stallion!
Actually, that reminds me, when I was exalting Necro, I had some angry ass guy in my messages asking me why I'm exalting Necromancer. Like, bro, what the fuck you want me to say? You should have seen him when he found out I was exalting Bard. But you need to realize, when you're playing Bard, you're also playing God. You have the power to piss someone off with a click of one button. As the famous quote from Barbara De Angelis says, "No one is in control of your happiness but yourself." and bard players. I'm not gonna lie to you, I accidentally deleted all of my bard footage whilst I was cleaning out my hard drive, so I can't show you any of my 03 top damages or loot I got whilst exalting the bard like I did with my necromancer and wizard video. However, what I can show you is this really fucking cool light bulb I bought from Amazon for only £12 with next day delivery.